Yes, well, okay, hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are in May actually, and that means we passed another fantastic year with our Fluids Addon on the Blender market. This would never have been possible without you all, so this is a good time for Ryan and me to say thank you very much. And having had a nice year with our add-on again means that there was a lot of development work for us. What in detail? This is what I'm going to talk about in this video. By the way, this is the first time we are publishing a development video on our Fluids channel. In the past years, we have used the BlenderPhysics-channel, what still is alive, but as this one is for creative stuff and also for other programs, we found it better to use this channel for Fluids Addon specific things. Okay, let's go to my computer. Okay, to begin with something, I would like to show you improvements that has been done in the tool shelf from the Fluids Addon. So this is a thing you can open on the right side here. So what is really cool is you can create a domain on the fly by clicking that button here, and then it's finished. Please take notice about that a fluid surface object will be generated. It's a placeholder for the surface when it has been baked, but it also means if you delete this object now, you need to delete this manually, because otherwise you will find multiple fluid surface objects here whenever you're adding a new domain box here, and that might be a little bit irritating, so just delete this one. Okay, so again, create domain creates a domain. That is really simple. But there's more than just creating a domain. And I will show you here. Let's create a cube and place it here. Let's say this is an obstacle. Just click there. You can duplicate it now. Move it. You can add another object, like say a cylinder. And this one could be say it's an inflow object. Let's add another one, a UV sphere, place it here. Let's say this is a fluid object. Okay, so let me move it here. If nothing is selected in your scene and you now click the create domain button, then our add-on will automatically add a domain box that will surround all objects that require to be inside a domain box. This is cool. You only need to resize the domain box, because as you know, the bigger a domain box is, the longer baking can take. Okay, so this is cool. Let me tell you something about these two objects here, because as they are fluid objects, what means they will become fluid in the simulation, we have decided that it's not required to make them visible in rendering. But if this is what you want, let's have a look to the filter here. That would mean you have to enable this little camera icons here on the right side. So, but if you do not want to search for that icons here, you can use these buttons. Yes, and if you do not like to see this as a wireframe object in the viewport, you can use these buttons here. And this is cool to set up your scene for rendering and for the viewport. Also cool is the select objects field here, because this is cool. If you're working on your scene and you would like to change some settings from the domain, you do not need to search the domain box here in the outliner. You can just click on select domain here and then select it. Then you can click here and make your changes here. How many obstacles are in the scene here? Easy to find. Just click the obstacles button and all obstacles will be selected, and all the fluid objects and inflows and so on. This works really cool. This works also for the finished baked surface, and this will also work for simulated white water particles. If you would like to have a better organization on the outliner here, there's that organize button here, but I do not press it now because I would like to make a simulation first. So we have some more objects in the outliner, like white water particles. So let me select the domain and let me scroll down here to enable white water simulation. Yes, then I need to save the file. Just click here, save. Save. Okay. Click on bake. We do only need some frames here. And then you will find white water, bubbles, dust, foam, spray here also. We have a surface here. Yes. Everything here. And now we can click this magic button here. And then you will see that we have new collections here called domain, where the domain objects obstacles are now organized in the obstacle collection, and the same thing with all the other objects here. What you can also do is, when opening this thing here, you can click on flip meshes to collections. And then you will find the fluid surface in a surface collection and all white water things in a white water collection. So beautiful. What do you think about this? Of course, you can undo this by clicking on unlink, and then you will find the original outliner back again. Yes, but of course, I think this is a way most of you would like to work. Amazing. Yeah. Yes. And the next step after baking a simulation would be to render all the frames here. So I've prepared things here. I finished baking 118 frames. I set up my scene for to have 100 frames. So I would like to render all that 100 frames. And as you maybe know, if your scene is very big and complex, if you have a high resolution simulation inside, maybe you have millions of particles inside, and now you hit render animation, and you will, yes, you will shut down your monitor and will take a look at the next day. And yes, Blender crashed at frame 25. That is frustrating, and this really happens very often. So our idea was to make a command line tool that can generate a batch file for you. And inside that batch file, there are commands to start Blender to render each frame by each frame. And every time you click on this generate batch file button, our add-on will take a look into the folder with the rendered images and see if there are missing files, and generate a new batch file that will only render the missing files. Okay, so I do not want to talk too much. I just want to show you how this works. So the first thing would be to click on generate batch file. So when you do this, the add-on looks for what file format you will save and what output directory you will save, and it will generate a batch file for you. So you can open the tool, the system console here, and take a look what is the output here. So it says no frames, 0 frames are in JPEG format has been rendered. That's correct, because we did not render anything. What could also be is that you have rendered all the things in PNG format, and after this change that file format to JPEG. So that would mean you have 100 frames in PNG format, but it always will show you 0 frames because you have selected JPEG here, just for you to notice this. And it tells you where the rendered files will be saved into the folder here, and it will tell you where you will find a batch file, and this is this folder here. And now let me jump into here, this folder, and let me show you where this file is. It's here, render shelf blend, but it's a file name, and with render in front and with bad at the end. So let's have a look inside, and you will find exact 100 lines here for 100 frames. Okay, you can now double click this one to start it, or you could also start it from Blender directly by clicking this play button here, and now the batch file renderer does its job. Okay, if you would like to, you can now close Blender, because Blender is not required for rendering now, but we can also keep this open and click the folder button here to jump directly into the folder where the rendered images will be saved into. Okay, so let's wait a while till all these images has been rendered. Okay, so rendering 100 frames has been finished, and we can now take a look to how that beautiful simulation is looking like. Yes, Eevee rendered, as you can see maybe. So, okay, so now what would happen if we press that play button again? That would open the just generated batch file again and would also render all 100 frames again. So whenever you are going to click this button, make sure you click that generate batch file button before. And now let's have a look again to the console, and it tells us 100 frames in JPEG format has been rendered and 0 frames are missing. So this is cool, because now when we are going to take a look into that batch file, you will see it's empty. Nothing here to render. Okay, but what is when we are missing some frames or something is not okay? Maybe one frame is flickering or whatever. So let me delete this one, and let's say in general rendering aborted from here. So, and let's say this frame is missing and this frame is missing. So what we can now do is we can click generate batch file again. Let's have a look to the console, and you will see that 9 frames are missing. And now let's take a look into the batch file again. It's here. And you will see all the frames we deleted will be found here. And yes, that means that our generate batch file button always will take a look for frames that are missing. And the only thing you need to do is to click this button and then click that play button. And yes, then the new generated batch file runs and will render the missing frames. Okay, cool. That is all about the tool shelf. One of the biggest changes in the last year was to add force fields to our add-on. Force fields can be added to any object and will help to realize fantastic simulations. This latter animation has been made using the volume force field. Force fields can be added by selecting an object and then click the force field button in the tool shelf. Or you take a look to the physics panel, where you can also switch between different modes. 4 different modes are available now, so let me show you some examples. More to be added in the future. The next thing we show you is a new solver called APIC. APIC is short for Affine Particle in Cell and found its way into our Fluids add-on. You could choose APIC as solver for small-scale simulations. It's good for high vorticity, swirly and stable simulations. And you can choose to use it simply by enabling it using this button here. Okay, while developing its integration, Ryan rendered some great comparisons for you, and let me show you them here. Importing and exporting data has been improved. The latest versions of our add-on are now using a database for importing and exporting that makes the data transfer faster, and that was required to add force field functions to the add-on. And when talking about data in and export, I would like to show you another great new thing. And that is being able to use exported data for a complete new simulation without the need to re-export. On scenes with a lot of geometry, that will save a lot of time. Take a look. Okay, so what I have here basically is an imported fracture modifier simulation. Yes, it's looking like this. All that flickering can be done away by using an edge split modifier, but I cannot use the edge split modifier yet because I'm going to use this imported model as obstacle for our flip fluid simulation, and the flip fluid simulator does not like edge split modifiers, so I keep this disabled just for simulating, and for rendering we can enable this. By the way, the fracture modifier still is available, but it's version 2.79. I'm sorry, 79 is right, 79, and yes, it's still working, and you can export your fracture simulations from there into the Alembic cache format and then import that into an actual version of Blender. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now is the cache directory, because there's something you should know what is new. And this is this. I made this an obstacle and I set up my simulation. So what I have to do now is I have to click on bake, and then our add-on is exporting all that little shards into a cache folder. By the way, we have to make sure that export animated mesh is enabled for this. Otherwise you might have some issues. Okay, so let's click on bake. And let's see how long this will take to export all that little things into, yes, the cache folder and then to be simulated. I'll make a short break and come back when it's finished. Okay, well, exporting has been done so far, and I already did the simulator bake some frames for you to show what's going on here. So while going through the timeline here, you can see how things are falling down into my fluids, and yes, that works well, but the thing is, the result is not what I expected it could be. And this is because I simulated with not a high enough resolution. So what I need to do now is I have to stop, and I have to make some changes in the settings for the domain. So one thing I should really do is I should increase the resolution here. So what I do now is I think something like doubling it would work very well. And what I also would like to do, I would like to see some white water particles, so have foam and bubbles or spray, but I'm going to simulate only foam and spray. The other stuff is not required. And I do not want to delete the cache we already have used. I would like to use a new cache folder to be able to compare the new settings to the old settings. And this is the thing what I would like to talk about with you, because when I go down here to cache directory, I can call this name cache 2. Hit enter, and now I can bake with the new settings. But the thing is, when I do this, all these shards will be re-exported and I have to wait again. And so what we can do now is we can use the old cache directory for the already exported files and use them in our new simulation. So let me copy this path here, and I believe the old name was cache. So this way, when you click bake, the simulation, the add-on is looking into this directory for pre-exported files and use them, and does not re-export everything. So just hit bake, and you will see baking is in progress without having to export anything else. So this is very new. This is how link existing exported geometry is working. By the way, if you have selected the obstacle and you are not going to change the path here, you will use the same path, you can use this skip mesh re-export button here to make the add-on not to re-export everything, but this only works for the actual cache directory. Okay, so that's all from this side. Attributes are coming in the future. We think beginning with Blender 2.93 you will be able to use data like age or speed as example to modify fluid surface colors with it. We made some experiments with Blender experimental builds and that still worked great. Look at these examples. Okay, and here's another very cool feature, and this is called upscaling. Upscaling can be used to upscale your simulation on a specific frame in place of simulating all frames in a new resolution. So here's a great example for this. So let's click back, and what you can see now is a sphere that is emitting some fluid. The way I made this scene is I took a cube and rotated it a little bit and made it an obstacle and inversed obstacle, so just fluid inside this inversed obstacle will be simulated. Okay, so but now here comes the part that I'm going to show you. So the fluid is coming down this ramp here, and now here on the bottom it's beginning to swirl here. Yes, and that is really cool. That looks so beautiful. And let's say this part is the only part you would like to render. So you would take a camera here, and of course you would like to render this in a higher resolution, or you would like to simulate this in a higher resolution. The thing is, in general, you would now go to frame 1, you would press reset, and then you would increase the resolution to something like, let's say 250, and then you would rebake all the frames down there. But we do not need to do this. You can bake in a low resolution, let's say till here, and then rebake at this scene here. So you have to select resume bake from, let's say, frame 51 is here, or from 101 what is here, or if you choose to use another frame, you have to go to the more baking settings here, and then you can take a look to enable save states and can choose there to make save states all 25 frames as example. Then you have more in the list here you can choose from, but for my example this is enough. So let's say at 101 I would like to have a higher resolution, so go to 101, select 101, and make sure you have increased your resolution to something you would like to see. In my scene it's resolution 250, and now just click resume baking. And what the other now is doing, it just looks at frame 101, and beginning from there it will use a new resolution. So as you can see here, so the frames before are at a lower resolution, and with frame 101 it jumps into a higher resolution. And this way you can save a lot of time. I mean, let's think about doing something like a river simulation or whatever you would like to have. You do not need to simulate the whole path of the fluid for the part you would like to render. You can simulate in a very low resolution, and when it comes to the point where you need higher resolution, you can stop, you can increase the resolution, you can tell the simulator to resume from this frame, and then beginning from this frame the simulator will simulate with a higher resolution. And we came to the end of this year's development video. Finally, let me tell you that we were able to fix many bugs with your help, And something you did also do, you made a great video with us. It was a customer reel 2020, and this was really a lot of fun to edit. I mean, you should take a look on our YouTube channel to watch it. The final video was that great that we decided to repeat this event again, so the doors are open. If you are interested into this, take a look to our participants page. And when you are visiting our homepage, www.flipfluids.com, you should take a look to the development corner, because Ryan gives you regular development updates there. So if this is interesting for you, that would be the right place to take a look too. Great, that was all for this year. Let us know what you think about our development. A good thing would be to use the comment fields below this video. And yes, thank you very much for watching. See you the next time. Goodbye.